You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning. Welcome along to Three's a Crowd. I am back from my trip away, and welcome to Rye and Ted. How are you, lads?
Very good. Nice to have you back.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is nice to have you back.
Good-
Bit of sensibility about the podcast again.
And a one people can watch by the sounds of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, fancy that.
Which is always helpful with podcasts. Anyway, moving
Welcome to
on.
episode 14.5.
Good to see you, lads. We, as always, got an hour of chat about North East football, and I guess we start with Middlesbrough, who have been a little bit premature in their action this weekend. They played last night, right? That was, dare I say, a decent performance from a Newcastle fan's perspective. Watching Middlesbrough, I thought they played really well, and I think you'd settle for that, a 1-1 draw at current league leaders, Burnley.
Yeah, no, we did really well. I thought it was a performance that had everything written all over it. We were coming in with probably the best offense in the league against the best defense in the league, only conceding 6 goals. It had 0-0 draw written all over it, and it was anything but. We had the wild weather, the pouring rain, the wind was howling through Turf Moor, and Middlesbrough came up with a plan and put it into action. And for all albeit we were up with with Dick still putting us with a fantastic goal, chipping the oncoming Burnley keeper, and we looked good. Obviously, Burnley were going to then come at us. We saw that. Connor Roberts, the ex-Middlesbrough loanee as well, scoring the goal for Burnley. Seny Dieng, sadly, you would think he's a little bit far off his line. He was caught probably there, and the wind helping him through that Turf Moor as well. It was going with him as well. So it sort of took him up and over him. And then, it was all evens. And then that sort of just would go through till about 90 minutes. But it was good, solid performance from Middlesbrough. We've been leaking goals. One thing that we've haven't really spoken about in these absolute incredible performances in the 6-1s and the 5-1s is that we haven't kept any clean sheets. So we've been leaking goals. So even though we've been blowing teams away 5-1, 6-2, we've still been letting in 1 or 2 goals. So you would argue that defense has got big question marks. Well, last night it was tested against Burnley, arguably a very, if not one of the better teams in the comp, and we came up with A+. I reckon we did really well. We dug in, we defended where we needed to. We held Burnley out after attack after attack. Those that watched it, you would see the Burnley possession was absolutely insane. And we played our game. It kept, a few boys up front quiet, but I thought our defense shone. And, Dale Fry, George Edmondson, the fridge, we've just had some solid defensive performances. And last night was no different. And I was really impressed. Yeah, really impressed. And I think we had the chances to take it away from them, which was even more impressive. It was just, one of those nights where we couldn't bury the ones we needed to. So good, solid performance, good point. Look, 2 tough games on the road. Obviously, Burnley away last night, and now we go to Ellen Road to take on Leeds, on Tuesday night, sorry. So it's 2 tough games, and I think I've said on the last week's show, which was amazing, by the way, one of the best shows we've ever had, that I said to Ted that we could probably, hopefully, take 4 points from these next 2 games, and that'd be perfect.
Right, what was the goal celebration all about? Tom's wanting to know.
Yeah, so the boys have come up with this little campfire celebration. I think it's to do with the wild weather that we've seen across England, but it was started against Luton Town. Luton Town when we scored not Luton Town, so it was Oxford when we beat them 6-2. There was a celebration by Delano Bergzorg, who went and celebrated with the ball and did like a little campfire celebration. And for some reason, it's continued. I don't know. I haven't asked any of the lads about it, but I think it's something here to stay because they seem to love it. But yeah, it's a little campfire celebration, just to say how good the English weather is at the moment. I do believe
it's got something to do with I'm a celebrity. I'm saying something to do with I'm a celebrity.
It could do. Not that I watch it, but yeah, no, it could do. I mean, it's crazy when you talk about I'm a Celebrity and how hard it is for them because I live that sort of lifestyle every day.
Of course you do. Isn't it a traditional Teesside celebration though? Because they used to like warming their hands on a burning car. just a suggestion.
There he is. And Sunderland, I mean, look, Sunderland. But look, Ted, you were saying a while back, you were flying high. So, at the moment, that top of the league is very tight. I think the Premier League's quite tight at the moment. We'll come to that. But Sunderland currently sitting at fourth place at the moment. Sheffield United top, Burnley second, Sunderland fourth. Well, I mean, what's all that to do with? Do you think? Why do you think you just can't find that opportune moment to score a goal and win the game?
Yeah, it's just seems to be lacking a little bit of a killer instinct at the minute. It's very odd. We can't quite put our finger on it. I think there has been changes to the shape, changes to the lineup that really hasn't helped us at all. We've got a couple of players that are out of form. I think it's just, when a team gets a glitch, they hit that point in the season where they just get a little bit of a stumbling block. I think we've maybe got 2 or 3 together at the same time, and that's why it's probably making things look a little bit worse than what we are. I said right from the start that we wouldn't stay top all season. That's nigh on impossible to do that. There's only your Liverpools and Man Cities will ever sort of get near that. Obviously, until you start mentioning staying humble. But yeah, listen, it's a glitch as far as I'm concerned. I've got every faith in the staff that we've got. It's just that ruthless streak. I think I mentioned this to Rye last week as well, and I think I mentioned it on the show previously, is we seem to get the stages like with Coventry City where we're 2-0 up, we'll look great, absolutely great first half. And I think some of the game management towards the end just needs tweaking a little bit. I don't think we're the sort of side that can sit back and defend leads. I think we've actually got to go and keep attacking and keep playing the way that we do. And it's risky, Steve. The great entertainers days where it's kind of like sometimes you'll blow teams away 4-0, but sometimes you'll just squeak a 4-3. Very exciting to watch, but not good for the heart rate, And I just feel that Sunderland really need to go in for the. It's the host has unmuted your mic.
Yeah, it's right.
It's right.
I'm trying to get this sorted out. Rye's microphone, he's not picking up the message. I'm trying to be very discreet and run the show professionally. Rye's not checking the messages, and his microphone's picking up some horrendous background noise, which is drowning
you out.
Yeah, it sounds like he's hoovering.
Yeah.
I'll mute myself.
So sorry.
I do apologise. This is a professional setup. I do apologise. Ted, please continue.
Steve, it was like this last week as
you
well.
You were talking about boring football or something. Please, the floor is yours.
Continue.
Yes, indeed. Listen, we might have stumbled. We're still ahead of Middlesbrough. They're celebrating, closing the gap on us down to 2 points. Which, when you're a small club like that, that's all you've got to cling on to by the fingernails. I honestly see us turning the corner. I'm not worried about it. I think Regis Labrise, happy birthday for yesterday, Regis. A fellow Sagittarian like myself, my birthday is next week. We're not too dissimilar in age range, me and Regis, which I'm quite shocked about. But there you go. He'll get it right. We'll start today. We'll start putting the goals away and absolutely, finishing teams off like we should do. We'll get to my prediction later on for the Stoke game today, but I think my prediction will probably reflect that anyway.
All right, good stuff. Newcastle, what a Jekyll and Hyde team we are. Obviously, I missed last weekend's show, as did most of the viewers.
Did everyone.
But look, we really are a funny old team. The West Ham game was very, very disappointing. Newcastle, an opportunity to really cement that place in the top four, losing 2-0 at home to West Ham, who can't buy a result, never mind a win. And then moving on from that, we go to Crystal Palace and we don't actually have a shot on target. We're winning 1-0 and managed to concede a last-minute goal. These things happen in football, but not to create a chance is sacrilege. So we go against Liverpool Wednesday, who are, in everyone's mind champions elect, apart from mine. I still think Man City will probably win the league. But the Scousers came to town, and Newcastle really did deserve to win that game. They were absolutely brilliant. They turned up. The high intensity was there. The press was there. Eddie Howe, found a way to play Tonali together alongside, the other star player in that midfield, Bruno Guimaraes, and the old Anthony Gordon was back. Alexander Isak was doing what he does best, which is sticking the ball in the back of the net in fine style. And the rear guard, the back four, they conceded 3 goals, but it was that kind of game. It was a typical Newcastle-Liverpool fixture, and Lewis Hall probably stood out. I mean, to play, Salah and come up against Salah, who was in the form of his life, by the way, and contain him the best he could. Yeah, Salah scored 2 goals. One of them was Hall's fault, but I did really think that Hall bizarrely actually had a really good game against Salah, and he learned more from that game than he probably did of others. But 3-3, it was a fair result probably. I think the one or two controversial parts of that game were Virgil van Dijk. I felt should have been sent off. Van Dijk was somebody who had been sent off in this fixture previously. The body check of Gordon, I thought, was disgraceful. And the fact that VAR had a chance to look at it and decided there was nothing doing with it, I just found bizarre. I don't know how on earth they can look at that and say that it's not even a booking. Really, really found that strange. And the goal that could have been at the end when Newcastle went storming through, Alexander Isak, who, from my perspective, certainly would have got a shot on target, but didn't get the opportunity because the referee decided to blow his whistle. I found that bizarre, and I mean, there was definitely at least another minute to play, but it's almost like an unwritten rule, lads. When the team is attacking, you let the play finish, and if it goes out for a corner, then maybe the corner even gets taken. But it felt
strange.
very, very unfair. That, I mean, you must have felt the same, Ted.
It looked very, very odd. But one thing I did want to mention was that goal from Fabian Schär. He had absolutely no right from that angle to put that away. It was, I mean, you talk about Isak being in the form of his life. He would have been absolutely stoked to get that on target. That was incredible. But what Kelleher was doing on that, it was just a bizarre goalkeeping decision. So it's fortunate, but big credit to Fabian Schär for that finish, because that was absolutely immaculate. Any striker in the world would have been pleased with that one. But yeah, the injury time, I mean, look, we all grew up, and we mentioned it in the WhatsApp group as well. We all, watched those 4-3 games, and you kind of, you think, we're going to get a repeat of that, because there were amazing games to watch. Obviously, slightly more so for a Sunderland fan watching Newcastle get pipped at the end, of course. But at the same time, you think, look, Newcastle were worth the win. I even said it before the game. I fancied Newcastle to do it anyway because of that whole Jekyll and Hyde thing. They're going to bounce back against a big club like Liverpool. So a little bit unjust. I think the Geordies are quite right to feel a little bit hard done by in that. One thing I did notice in that game as well, and I noticed it in last night, and it's really, really starting to irritate the life out of me, is the number of foul throws that are being allowed to pass in football now. I know referees kind of like to have their favourite new rule that they've got to exercise, and they kind of concentrate on that. Obviously, you can't give referees too much to think about because they're only simple blokes, really, aren't they? But yeah, if they're any good, they'd be footballers. But the number of foul throws that have been allowed to go ahead and take place now, you can see people in the crowd going, foul throw, and the amount where they're going actually down and almost thrown into the floor, which is a foul throw. It's got to be directly above the head to count as a legal throw-in. The number that happened in the Newcastle-Liverpool game and in the game last night, Burnley, nearly every single throw-in they took was a foul throw. And it's just not being looked at. So it's my little thing. As you can tell, it's got us agitated.
Yeah.
Calm down, Ted. Calm down.
No, honestly, it bugs me because that's something like, even at Sunday League level, that would be pulled up. So why is it being allowed to be ignored in the top two divisions in English football? It's just a strange one for me. Like, it looks like there's a few people agreeing with me as well.
Yeah, there is. What was your thoughts, Ryan? I mean, it was a hell of a game, that. I mean, I was hoping that we were going to get a revenge for the 4-3 at Anfield all those years ago, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, look, it was a fantastic game. Something that I sat down and watched. Obviously, you know, a midweek fixture as well. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was it had everything. Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, Ted and I think we said it, you know, was that we knew Newcastle were going to bounce back. It wasn't a game that we're going to rock up and have no shots on target. It was against Liverpool. Newcastle seemingly step up like it was at AC Milan last season, you know, in the Champions League. It's just Newcastle seemingly finding a way, and Newcastle did that as well. I thought it was a fantastic game. I think I said to you in the WhatsApp in about what I could have said in one message, I sped in a spade of about 6 messages. But yeah, look, the biggest one for me was you were on goal. I mean, it was I could not believe it. That you're on the counter at the end, and that then the ref just goes, no, it's full time. So I mean, I thought there was plenty of time left, especially on a counter as well, where you could clearly see it was a counter, and then all of a sudden he blows the full time. I don't know if VAR or anyone could step in with that, but that just seemed like a blatant, and then obviously you had is it Quansah? Probably if I butchered the last name, but yeah, he literally tripped Isaac. Do you know what I mean? Like, he literally tripped him up. So yeah, crazy game. It had everything for the Premier League for, neutral, didn't it? It was a 3-3, Newcastle up and ready for the fight. Liverpool obviously proving to be the number one catchers this season, you would think now. So yeah, I loved it. Had a bit of everything for me. And I think if Newcastle can figure out how to get that performance out every week, and like every other team is looking for, if they can be consistently that good, then obviously that's what, that's the level you need to be at each week. And unfortunately, it's that sort of level that you need to ask for from the lads when you come up against the likes of Crystal Palace and West Ham. Do you know what I mean? Which comes as a shock now when if you completely two different teams, when you look at that Liverpool team and the way they played there against the Crystal Palace and West Ham performances. Whatever that secret sauce was that happened, I mean, Eddie's, that's Eddie's job to try and find out. But yeah, as a neutral, had a bit of everything. I thought it was a fantastic match.
Yeah, well done to Eddie Howe as well. He went on to Simon Jordan's podcast. I thought he did, handle himself well and answered quite a few key questions. If you haven't watched it, do give it a watch. I know some people in the Newcastle fan base can't stand Simon Jordan, but fair interview.
The Newcastle one.
Yeah, exactly. That Premier League's mental. I was talking about it before. I mean, with the exception of Liverpool, who are currently, giving themselves a nice little cushion, anybody from second down to 12th, which is 12th or 13th. Let's go 13th because Manchester United are 13th. They're on 19 points. Anybody there could end up in a Champions League place this season. It's fascinating. Anybody can beat anybody. Let your standards drop. Anybody can beat anybody. I think it's interesting as well. Liverpool-Everton's off today. It's a victim of the weather. Not very often you get a Premier League game postponed, but that in itself is also one of those things now you look at and think could be a title decider. That Everton could be picking up by then. Liverpool could be on the way, and it'll be the last. It's the last derby as well. One of the last derbies. I think is that one at Everton. I'm not sure. If it's at Everton,
cancelled today, being postponed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying the fact that it's off is something which could play a huge part in the title race or the relegation battle.
You'd rather have the points in the bag than the games in hand, definitely.
And the point I was trying to make is the Everton. It is. I was just double checking. It's Everton versus Liverpool, so it's at Everton. That'll be the last derby at Everton's ground. So the emotion surrounding that particular fixture, especially if it's in May, which is probably when they'll fit it in, is going to be absolutely crazy. So yeah, mental season. Just want to talk about Barry's question. I know you've answered it in the chat, but let's just go a little bit further on that, Ted, because we've talked about it in the past, and January is on its way. Barry, of course, for our podcast, UFC Matters, he adds up the players that have been linked with Newcastle. It's over 60 now that we've been linked with. Probably by nobody. This particular window, but it doesn't stop the media predicting and speculating. But yeah, this is a story which is going to continually, be brought up. Bellingham, do you think he might be sold in January?
I don't think he will.
No.
Not while we're kind of in and around that top 6 area, because ultimately to help his development, if we were to get promoted, then that is part of his development. He then gets to play Premier League football. So I think for now he'll stay put. I don't think there's any need for him to move anywhere else. I feel like he's progressing. You know, I've mentioned a couple of times in the past few weeks, his play has just been absolutely sublime this season. The way he spins and makes room for himself, he's just a joy to watch. He's coming on leaps and bounds. He's still only 18. You know, we've got to bear that in mind. So, he will get a big move to a really, really big club. I don't doubt that. We will not hang on to Joe Bellingham forever. I just don't think he'll be sold in January. I think he's a key part of that midfield. We look so much better with him in it. We really do. We look much more of a threat. And I think we're more likely to sell somebody like Anthony Patterson to bring in reinforcements. You know, Simon Moore's done a fabulous job when Patterson was out injured. You've got Matty Young. Now, if you remember last season, we spoke with Steve Watson, who had Matty Young on loan at Darlington.
Yeah.
And everybody's raving about this kid. He was 16 at the time, and he was on loan at Darlington. He's at Salford at the moment, potentially going up against Man City in an FA Cup game, which would be lovely to see that. Like, there's something about it. There's something about him where I just think Patterson we can almost afford. I wasn't impressed with Patterson's distribution. I never have been. I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper, but there's weaknesses there. So somebody like him, I can see him being sold, but Joe Bellingham, I don't think he's going anywhere right now. And if we are to get promoted at the end of the season, which I'm still hopeful of, then we keep him for another season as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, this leads us to ask you a question from the chat now, Rai, which, again, you've answered briefly. But do you think Latte Lath will be sold in January? Says Craig. And he says, I hope not. We have Conway and the loan market.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question that we keep getting asked. Obviously, you know, that deadline day bid from Ipswich, you know, kind of rocked, you know, Latte Lath and his form and his confidence. You know, he was subject to the bid. He looked like he was interested in going, but obviously the club shut it down. But look, I've said this all along. I think every player has their price. No matter who they are at your club, every player has their price, whether, you know, it's astronomical or it's just good business. I mean, unfortunately, as sad as it is, you know, as connected as we do to these lads, you know, out on the pitch, you know, every lad has their price. Bruno, you know, you'd hate to lose Bruno, but if someone comes in for 150 million, you know, hello FFP, you know what I mean? Bellingham, if someone comes in for 50 million from, you know, Borussia with add-ons, if he goes on to play for England and stuff like that, that's, you know, for Sunderland, that's insane amount of money for the championship. Same again for Latte Lath. If someone comes in early January for Latte, they're still offering that 20 to 25 million. We paid 5.5 million for him. You know, I mean, that's just good business. And then we're able to reinvest that into the squad or whatever is needed to be done. And that makes sense to me. And look, as much as I don't want to lose Latte Lath, I kind of understand it from a business point of view now. I think I've sort of, you know, after the many years of following football, you kind of get it that, you know, that as much as you love spending the money, money has to come in from somewhere. And sometimes that is a good transfer sale. So look, if we've got time to replace him, I think early doors, I think it happens. You know, if there is an interest from Ipswich and all that sort of stuff, whether he wants to go there now, we're you know, seeing Ipswich down the bottom of the Premier League. You know, January's a different beast. You know, you can actually see what type of football you're going to be playing. You know, will Ipswich still have Steve McKenna at the helm? You know, both the other two have sacked their manager and moved on in Leicester. So, you know, it's you know, it's interesting. But look, if a 25 million bid comes in for Latte Lath, would be silly not to, as long as we've got time to replace him. If it comes in on deadline day of January again, you'd say no, because you don't have any time to replace him. But Tommy Conway is a fantastic striker. Latte Lath is also a fantastic striker. I love both of them at the Borough, but every player has their price.
Yeah, this transfer window in January for me, I think it's going to be a little bit of a non-event for Newcastle. I think if anything happens, it'll be outgoings. And the question we've had posed to us this week is, if you had to sell a big player, who would you sell? I almost feel that some of the stuff that's coming from Newcastle United's hierarchy and management, you know, with regards to the transfer window is almost setting us up for that kind of inevitability that we will lose a big name player at some point. Who that is and where to is the big question. And, lots been made of Anthony Gordon, being unsettled. Craig Hope went big with an article in the Daily Mail this week saying that, in the summer, he was unsettled because he found out that, he was talked about as a potential, make way for PSR. But to be honest, his goal celebration the other night, I think, told us where he stands on that. It's all talk. And from our perspective, we've just got to accept that. We've just got to accept that Anthony Gordon is a Newcastle player. He's happy to be at Newcastle and doesn't want to go anywhere. But I think everyone's got that price. And, there has been talk amongst fans of if you had to let Bruno, Gordon or Isak, go, who would you want to let go? I mean, it's such a difficult question, and one which may have to be asked. But there are a lot of fringe players out there who Newcastle could make decent money on. Miguel Almiron, of course, who has been linked with numerous moves to different places, but for whatever reason hasn't been able to agree terms and leave. Callum Wilson, of course, who's now back, fully fit. Is also somebody whose contract's running down. Kieran Trippier, of course, linked with a move out of the club, and again somebody who's on big wages, who again would help PSR if he moved on. So there are players there who you look at and think we could possibly get something for them, or get them off the wage books. But I think the way it is with Newcastle is it's we'll not be able to unlock the safe and spend any decent money until we get rid of a big name player. Harvey Barnes potentially can't make the first team. Is only being used sporadically and as a super sub. Clearly doesn't like that kind of tag. Wants regular football. Isn't going to get it at Newcastle, it doesn't seem. So is that possible? Is it possible that we could offload him? I think plenty people would want him. But yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a non-event. I really do. I don't see them spending big. I don't see them going in for anybody. But you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised in January and we'll manage to do some good business. And it's a test. The next two windows are a test, not for Newcastle. As a club, I would say probably more for Paul Mitchell, who has come in and has had time to get his feet under the table and get to know, the ins and outs of the football club. And from my perspective, I think that his job will be judged on that. And Barry, you make a really good point. We could sell 4 of our 6 goalkeepers. We've got a lot of goalkeepers at the club, and that has to be sorted out as well. So yeah, you're quite right. But interesting times, interesting stuff. And yeah, January isn't too far away, so that will all kick off very soon. And I've just seen in the chat that Jules sends her apologies today, but Les is going to clip the cat section so that she can watch it. So here you are, Jules. We've got a mixed bag. We've got a bit of a festive feel as well. Some people sent us a few festive things this week. This is why I don't wrap gifts, lads.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And I tell you what, I think we should have a Threezy Crowd Christmas day out, lads. I think we'll all fly to Australia. We'll have a breakfast with Santa, lads.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Moving on to football, David Jacks, this is a good one. He says, Wolves, without a shadow of a doubt, have the worst fans in the Premier League. It's getting to the point now Wolves might have one of the worst fan bases in the whole 92, says Fulham. And Wolves says, I'm not usually one for replying to opposition fans, but this feels like celebration. Very clever. Very
well
clever.
Done. Well done.
We're going to chuck a lookalike in from Stephen Kennedy. Thanks for that, mate. And close your eyes, Ted. This one's not for you. Does Santa Claus really live in the North Pole? Let's have a look at the evidence. 1, he wears red and white.
Yep.
2, he breaks into houses. 3, he has a load of electrical goods nobody can trace.
True.
4, he drives an unlicensed vehicle. And 5, he works 1 day a year. Lapland and my house. He's a man.
Fair comment. Not even going to argue with that.
The winner for me this week was this one. Thank you for this, Jeff. Massive away win for the little fella. Gladiator 2, Paddington 3. Fantastic stuff. If you've got a troll of the week, you know the kind of stuff we're looking for. Send them over to me, Rye, or Ted, and we'll get them on the show. So Storm Dara batters the UK, Wales, Ireland, Scotland and England. I thought it was a perfect time to ask the lads this question that Stephen posted to me this week. Okay, guys, you can only choose 3. What is your pick? So, this is great, by the way.
You know how seriously I'm taking this, Steve?
Wow.
So
All right. He's got his glasses on.
Who wants to go first? Ted?
I'll go first.
I'll go right. Go for it,
Yeah,
right?
let Ted's got to analyze it with his OPSM glasses, his Specsavers. He's struggling to see. Look, oh god. So what have we got to do? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, your top 3.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
You can do it in reverse order if you want.
All right. Starting in number 3, I'm gonna have to go the classic heart. The classic heart. The heart ice cream is incredible, right? It is just absolutely incredible. Oh, this is where it's gonna. Now I'm gonna start. Now I'm gonna make some upset people, but this is what I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go with in number 2 the chili choc. I'm gonna have to go chili choc. I'm gonna have to go chili choc in number 2. Number 2. So we got number 3, the strawberry, the heart. Number 3, the chili choc, and in number 1, this is a tough choice, but you can't go past it. It's the orange fruity. The orange fruity is the god of all gods. Yeah, it's just classic. You can never go wrong on a hot day, a cold day, a day where the Mackems lose 5-0. It's an orange fruity type of day, and I'm going to lock in orange fruity number 1.
All right, good stuff, Ted.
It's a mixed bag, this one. I think in at number 3, I used to be a big fan of those funny faces, but I'm not a fan of strawberry ice cream. So I would have to go for a vanilla funny face at number 3, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm going to be very, very controversial here. Strawberry split shouldn't exist. Fruit and ice cream is just wrong. Fruit and dairy, nah. No. Get out of my freezer. Absolutely horrible stuff. I think in at number 2, I'd have to go with a Count Dracula. Absolutely. Love a Count Dracula.
Good. I try to fit that in.
A special mention for something that isn't here. If a cider gold cup lolly had been there, it would have been there all day long and pretending to get drunk on it. But in at number 2, the absolute classic of them all, even though it looks like something that you're very liberal anti might keep in our top drawer, it has to be the Skyrocket.
Yeah, okay. It's good stuff. You're always going to get different versions on here. I think for me, I'm going to go with the orange fruity third. I do like them, but I'm more of an ice cream man. I definitely agree with the vanilla funny face, but that's my number 2. I always used to remember sticking the whole, as a kid, trying to get the whole thing in your mouth. You used to have the cold sides of your lips.
That's some Gateshead would do that, no bother.
It's one of those things I remember. And
Ted, please.
My number 1 is the golden vanilla ice cream bar. I love that.
Classic.
I love that.
Cannot go wrong.
Loved it. But Stephen, we love things like that, mate. If you've got another one of them, ping it over, mate. Please do.
Yep.
So,
I'll tell you what we didn't mention, Steve.
Go on.
We haven't revealed to the public that I had a dream about you.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. Right, speech.
Just the most bizarre thing. I mean, right. I hadn't even had any cheese. I hadn't had a beer, anything like that. But when Steve Wraith starts to enter your dreams, there's something seriously wrong. First of all, so Steve's, most people know now, Steve's a very, very good promoter in his own right of boxing events, boxing bouts and all that kind of thing. But bizarrely, I had a dream about Steve fighting, who was it? Tony Jeffries, the Sunderland boxer.
Yeah, I know Tony.
Which was just bizarre, absolutely bizarre. Good fighter, Tony, in his day as well. He's doing very well for himself abroad now. And then then Steve said he wasn't going to do. This is in the dream, by the way, although it could still happen. Steve said he wasn't going to do the podcast anymore because his missus had turned professional comedian and had a tour to attend. But when you think about it, right, because obviously the amount of the games you've been to, you had the fancy, you've done the act and all that sort of thing. If anybody has got any kind of ammunition to use that would be absolutely hilarious, it would be your missus. So I think it's something she should take. Yes, but dreams about Steve Wraith, and I woke up and gone, I've got to tell them in the WhatsApp. Got to tell them.
You know what? You know what upsets me is there's no place for me in the dream. Do you know what I mean? You got Steve Wraith coming in free, free as everything. I thought we were closer than this, and I'm for one upset. I wasn't there. I wasn't even the ring announcer. I wasn't there announcing Steve Wraith's misses onto the stage. I didn't even make
a bikini holding up the numbers.
An offside. Do you know what I mean? Ridiculous.
Dear me, how.
Sorry.
No, but thanks for that. Thanks for sharing. It's part of your therapy.
You don't know how true that is.
Craig, good suggestion. He says a fab, a feast, and a twister. Anybody else got any things that they really like? Chris says burra, tea and biscuits and ice cream.
That's a bit of taste at first, isn't it?
What the burra? And Chris also says banana ice cream up the burra with vodka.
Hey, not bad shout.
It's interesting. And Barry's saying, I wonder what the dream means.
I didn't even look it up.
And Steve says, right, you were holding the ice lolly in the dream. Fantastic stuff. All right, let's look ahead to the games this weekend. Of course, Middlesbrough played last night, for those of you who didn't know. 1-1 draw against Burnley. So pressure's off Rye today, and pressure's on me and Ted. So trip to Stoke. Trip to the Stadium of Light for Stoke, sorry. And this is... a game Sunderland really want to win. They want to put some pressure back on those teams that have managed to get ahead of them. And you couldn't think of a better game to do it because Stoke, not troubling the playoff places at the moment. 21 points, sitting in 14th place. Perfect game to start it. However, I've got a feeling that the weather's going to be a bit of a leveler today. The weather in the northeast is windy and it's wet. And this game needs people who are willing to turn up and play in this kind of weather. And it sounds stupid that professional football has not been able to perform and play in the weather, but this is one of those games where anything could really happen on a day like this.
It's going to be challenging to say the least, and it's never a nice game against Stoke. Stoke went through that phase a couple of years ago of trying to play real football like normal teams do. But didn't seem to work for them at all. So it will be another physical fight. The one of the things that we've got on our side is we keep the ball down. We're not one of those that will sort of try and lump it up to a big man. So as far as the ball getting help up in high winds and things like that, that's not going to be as much of an issue for ourselves. I think we've got plenty about the side that's going to be physically putting themselves about, the likes of Luke O'Nien, Dan Ballard. No Chris Mepham today. Obviously, he starts his suspension after picking up the red card against Sheffield United, which was fair enough, to be honest. The only thing is that there should have been a Sheffield United player off before then, but, I'm not bitter. I think there's plenty about them. Even the lads up front, there's enough of them there that have played enough football in the Championship, in tough leagues, We've got lads who played in the Russian league. There's enough about them physically that I think we can give Stoke a bit of a problem today. We have Dennis Serkin back as well, which is a massive, massive plus. Best left back in the division by a country mile. I think that will be a massive, massive difference today. It means that we've got a more of a natural looking back four, because Luke's obviously had to play in full back positions. Trey Hume was moving to left back as well. So it's all been a little bit of a mix and match back four, but it's going to look more like what it should do. Dan Ballard coming back into the starting lineup as well, which is great. Luke O'Nien returned to centre back, where he's just been so good this season. I worry about him. He's nightmare fuel as a fullback because he can go wandering off a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, it's a almost getting there to be a first 11 choice. A couple of people missing still, but I fancy us today. I really do. I'm going very, very bold. I think today we turn the corner. We owe Stoke a kicking. We really do. We haven't given them an absolute good going over for a long, long time. And I'm going to stick my neck out and say 3-0 Sunderland today. I just can't see past us really turning it on today.
All right. Rye, thoughts on this classic?
It's going to be a classic bore. I tell you what, it's going to be absolutely boring. If you've got a television and you want to get some sleep today, you put on Stoke v Sunderland. This is going to have 0 goals written all over it. There's going to be 0 goals on one side of the stadium and 0 goals on the other. It's going to be 0-0, 0-0, 0-0-0-0. Stoke are going to come looking for defence. Stoke's recent results, I mean, going over this, they've lost to Burnley, they 2-0. They then had the 0-0 with Preston. Preston had a red card, and then they did a 1-1 with QPR as well. Coming into this one at the Stadium of Light, they're just going for that defensive, hold them out sort of thing. Sunderland seemingly have found a little bit of trouble to be able to put the ball in the back of the net at the moment. The likes of Romain Mundle, obviously out injured as well. I mean, looking to come back. I don't know what it is. And they just can't seem to find it at the moment. I don't think today's weather conditions are going to help either team. And I don't think it's going to be anything that you're going to be able to see the likes of Patrick Roberts and that, because he's just, I don't know what's happened to Patrick Roberts. It just seems to have fallen off a little bit of late. And he's usually got that trickery. But when it comes to this type of weather conditions, it's very hard to do that. And I think that's a big part of Patrick Roberts' game is being pulling the defender out towards him and then getting around him with a burst of speed or some sort of trick act. And they're not going to be able to do that with the weather we think, what it's going to be like currently in the Northeast. So I'm going for a 0-0 draw. I don't think it's going to be entertaining at all. I think it's going to be messy, muddy, and if anything, an absolute snooze.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, look, Stoke, it's one of those games you used to point at, oh, God, Stoke on a Tuesday night. It's like one of those, but this is Stoke on a Saturday afternoon at Sunderland. I think this is going to be I think it's going to be a messy, scrappy game. It's a difficult one to predict this. I do think there'll be goals today. I do think Sunderland will find their rhythm. I think the one thing Sunderland can take a bit of confidence from is what's going on around them. They haven't lost a great deal of ground with all them draws. Yep. They're going to change. They're going to change their look at some point. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win today. I think they'll win, but I think it'll be scrappy. I think Sunderland will be happy with that. I think they'll take it. But yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Sunderland today. So we will wait and see on that. Newcastle travel to Brentford today, and 1,700 Geordies already in that away end, and it's a game which Newcastle have had good fortune in over the last few seasons. Won on the last 3 visits to Brentford. The only time we've lost at Brentford was the Carabao Cup. Brentford, though, have got a good home record. They've got 6 wins under their belt this season, and they've scored 22 goals, and they've also got a great record for scoring very early on. I think they went 3 games in a row where they scored in the first minute, which was incredible. But Newcastle, of course, coming off the back of that wonderful performance against Liverpool on Wednesday, hopefully will have their tails up. And if they can find the same level of performance and the intensity, I think they'll do quite well. Botman, Lascelles and Kraft are all out. There is going to be a late decision, apparently, on Kieran Trippier, although the rumours flying around is that he's got flu. A lot of people are getting hit with that at the moment in the Northeast, and it sounds like he's had a bit of bad dose of it, so we'll wait and see. But Botman is encouraging to see him back training now. He's training full contact with a full squad again. So Botman is going to be back sooner rather than later, and then has to find a way of getting back into the side. One other point of note, Joe Linton, Fabian Shaw and Sandro Tonali are all one booking away from an automatic 1-match Premier League ban. As for Brentford, Thomas Frank's side lost 3-1 at Aston Villa in the Premier League on Wednesday night. They've only taken 1 point from a possible 21 on the road. But as I say, with league games and cup games, they're unbeaten in all 9 league and cup games at home. But they failed to keep a clean sheet, which again is encouraging for Newcastle, with especially the fact that they seem to be back to scoring goals again on Wednesday night. I think Newcastle will get a win down there today. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think Newcastle will probably set up shop like they did against Crystal Palace. But yeah, I'm going to go for a Newcastle United win. I'm going to say 2-1, lads. Ted?
Well, first of all, I mean, devastating to hear about Kieran Trippier catching a dose of flu.
I knew you were going to say that.
Reliably predictable, Steve.
Left it open for him.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Trippier, if you're listening. So I just wonder about the level of intensity that the Geordies played with on Wednesday, whether that might have just taken a little bit out of them. I know their tails were up at the end, obviously really disappointed they didn't get to finish off that attack towards the end as well. I just wonder whether we're going to see the Jekyll and Hyde performance again, Steve, because fabulous performance against the top side in the country right now. I just don't know whether they can back that up and kind of go one better right after a game as big as that. I think they'll come away with a draw. I can't see them losing the game. I just think maybe that Wednesday night game might have just took a little bit out of them. And obviously, like you've already mentioned, you've still got a couple of players to return back from injury where you kind of, if you're Eddie Howe, you're kind of forced to play certain people again where he might want to, do a little bit of change around with the squad. I see an entertaining game. I think there'll be goals in this one. I'm going to go with a Desmond. I'm going to say 2-2.
All right, Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one again. It's that same tale of what we were trying to say with. It's just like which Newcastle team's going to rock up? Is it the team that we saw at West Ham? Is it the team we saw at Crystal Palace? Is it the team we saw against Liverpool? I mean, it's what type of Newcastle United. We know there's a blooming good team on the day there, but it's it's at Brentford today. Do you know what I mean? That they've had arguably a big game against Liverpool as well. Like Teddy was saying, can they back it up? Look, I think it's going to be a cracking game where both teams on 20 points in the Premier League. Arguably. Are they on equal grounds? If you think Thomas Frank obviously, has got, Brentford so solid in recent years, but Newcastle, want to be higher than that. Newcastle have got European ambitions again this season, and it's time to start showing that. And today, I think they need to do that. We saw a big 3-3, against Liverpool, arguably, Liverpool, the number one team. So what's stopping it, putting another 3 in today? So I'm going to go 3-1 to Newcastle today. I think Brentford are going to score. But I think Newcastle are going to absolutely just run right and continue to score big goals and as many as them. I think Isak is just unstoppable at the moment. Gordon as well. I think he's going to cause troubles for, the likes. The thing that for Brentford is, you got the likes of Ben Mee and stuff like that. And they are, I believe Ben Mee's 35, 36. You know what I mean? He's they've got quite an aging defense, and Newcastle's youth lineup with the whole, the way they've been playing Willock, Gordon, Harvey Barnes, when he comes on, that is just pure speed. And I think that's just going to cause absolute mayhem for Brentford's defense. And we're going to see a lot of goals. And I'm going for a 3-1 victory.
Okay, good stuff. Steve says that all North East teams have the best away fans. Never stop singing and backing their team to the hilt, showing them Londoners how to support your team thick and thin. Up the North East fans. Well said, mate. Well said. Just before we finish off today, and big thank you to everybody watching, by the way. I did put this out live on Twitter as well as my YouTube. The lads have got it on their channels. We've got 280 watching live. So if you haven't subscribed to our channels, please do. It's free. We do plenty of shows between us, all for the 3 different North East football teams. But yeah, FA Cup draw this week, lads, and always an interesting one. I mean, for me personally, I was hoping for free drink and chocolates and hospitality, but we didn't get Sunderland in the cup this season.
I knew you were going to say that.
we got Bromley at home, which brings back one of our former goalkeepers, Andy Woodman, which is fantastic. Great to see him coming back to St James's Park, and it'd be a great payday for them. Great payday. But yeah, that's the magic of the FA Cup right there. It's not going to be on the main networks. BBC iPlayer is where Newcastle's game will be on. So it's an opportunity again for Bromley to get a little bit more out of it. And that's what the FA Cup's all about for me. But 3 home draws. And Ted, happy with yours?
I mean...
Oh,
no, not really. I'm not happy with it at all. You want, third round, you either want non-league, which what a fantastic day out for Bromley that's going to be. I mean, that's probably secures their future for another couple of years if Newcastle get decent gates for that, which I'm sure they will. So you want to see something like that, or you want a plum Premier League tie. And looking at the draw, I was going, Man City versus Salford City, that's fantastic. What a draw that is. And you're going, we've got Stoke at home. It was a bit of an anticlimax. It's a good chance to get through. I mean, Stoke are a little bit kind of, the slightly precarious in the Championship, so I can't see them playing, the full squad, if you like. So yeah, we've got a chance to progress here. I'd like to see a little cup run because we went out quite early last season. I can't remember what happened now, but yeah, let's just see what happens this time around. It's an okay draw. I would just like to have seen a little bit more stellar opposition, Steve.
Stellar opposition, okay. Ryan, you got Blackburn at home, didn't you?
We did. We got Blackburn Rovers at home. A tough opposition. I mean, Blackburn came in, and pantsed us the other night at the Riverside, obviously getting the 1-0 victory. Look, Blackburn's always a tough team to beat. It seems to be a bit of a bogey team for the Borough. John Eustace, the new coach there, was the one that was sacked at Birmingham to make way for Wayne Rooney. We all know how well that went. He's doing a stellar job now at Blackburn. He's got them, playing very, very good football. And it's going to be, very, very tough fixture for us. I'm going for the opposite. I don't really want a cup run. I want to see how far we can push this championship season. I'd like to see the youngsters get a bit of a shout. We've seen the likes of George McCormick, Law McCabe, even some of these real youngsters on the bench constantly for the Borough. I'd like to see them finally get a run and Carrick sort of just take a bit of sting out of it. Look, if it would have been a non-leaguer or something like that, that's always fun. We had a bit of a good cup run last season in the Carabao Cup. But I feel like that was what happened. That was a very big attribute to our injuries. The injury crisis we went through last season, I think, could be credited to that Carabao Cup run that we did, the amount of football that the lads had to play. So I could take it or leave it. Look, it's going to be a good game. We get a home tie as well. It's FA Cup. Of course, we want to go through. You're not going to be, taking the mickey out of it. But I think that there are bigger things at play. And, come January, it will be interesting to see where Borough are at league table-wise to see what type of team comes out against Blackburn. But yeah, tough test. Blackburn are no pushovers under John Eustace at the moment.
Tom wants to know who we think will get furthest in the FA Cup. I mean, Newcastle's still in the Carabao Cup as well. I'm hoping we'll be in the semi-finals by the time the FA Cup comes round. But yeah, it's all down to the draw, isn't it, really? And we've all got a home draw. You'd like to think we'll all be in the fourth round.
Yeah, I think so. And look, the one that I loved was Ashley Young drawing his son. Did you see this one? Can you believe it? Everton getting drawn, and I'll have to Google who it was, who he actually plays for. But Ashley Young obviously plays for Everton at the moment. Obviously, Ashley Young, I believe he's 38, 39, has a young son, 39 years old, and he has pulled his son's team as Everton play that. So can you believe it? Ashley Young might be facing off his son in the opposing FA Cup. That's the type of... Is it Peterborough? Thank you so much, David. So Peterborough, you know what I mean? To see Everton versus Peterborough and to see the dad versus son. I love that sort of stories in the FA Cup. So yeah, that's the type of ties that you want to be looking forward to for the FA Cup. Dad v son, let's get it on.
Fantastic stuff. Well, lads, the clock is beating us. Great show today. Thank you to everybody watching. Just short of 300 now. So please subscribe to all of our channels, and we will endeavour to bring you another podcast next week. But for now,
absolutely.
Right, Ted, thanks very much, lads. Great to see you, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
Up the Borough.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.